What's good, everyone? Coach Damien here with the Shift Method podcast. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. This is episode number 41. Should be coming out towards the end of April. Should be Monday, the 24th. And really appreciate y'all always tuning into this episode. As always, there's a couple of updates we got. Pretty much same old. But if you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're a returning guest, thank you so much for always coming in. Updates that we got. As you know, I'm training down South Florida at beautiful Johnny O's Gymnasium. I do have a couple spots in the morning section still open. So if you're in the South Florida area and want to train in person, please step on by. If you're abroad and you want to work with me, I have online services. You can either work with me one-on-one online, or we got those custom training programs through Train Heroic. As always, the store is available. You can head to theshiftmethod.org, grab yourself some merch. We got water bottles, t-shirts, you name it, we probably got it. And of course, you can always join the newsletter. At usually the first Monday of every month, I send out a newsletter that has usually a blog article, kind of a summary of all the podcasts and YouTube videos we've done, just to kind of keep you up to date into what's going on in my life in the Shift Method. Hopefully give you all some awesome education. Again, this is episode number 41. And today I got with me a fellow trainer that works next to me down at Johnny O's Gymnasium. And I think it's always important to kind of highlight our local coaches and coaches abroad because, you know, we got to prop each other up. We got to support one another. And so I just wanted to take the time to learn a little bit more selfishly from myself as well, to learn about my man, Curt Washington. Curt, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to the podcast listeners?
What up? Yeah, my name is Curtis Washington. I go by the name of Double Up. I'm a fat loss and body recomposition specialist out of South Florida. And yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. Thank you, Coach Damien. This is exciting. Yeah.
Yes. And emphasis on the body recomp, man. This man has been put in the work. He always works. Let me rephrase, right? This man benching a lot all the time, but I've definitely noticed in the last couple of months, man, you've been getting shredded, dude, looking good.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, man. I've really dialed in this process and I've obsessively been staying on point with it. And this is why I put the emphasis on body recomp, because I believe in it. I know it works. And that's pretty much everybody's goal when you think about it. Like,
yeah,
you know, we all talk about we want to be in shape, but what is in shape really? I always try to simplify things. In shape is a reduction in body fat and an increase in lean muscle, so you can love what you see in the mirror.
Absolutely. And I always like pointing that out because, you know, for my listeners here, they know I'm a big focus on, you know, the mental side of wellness, which kind of just comes with it naturally when you start working out and respecting your body. But I always tell people there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, and whatever that means for you, right? For some people, if you want to, you know, look good for the summer, as long as you have a healthy relationship with how you look and how you are with clothes, like by all means, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good. And so having a coach who can help you get to those goals, help you get to that body or that figure that you want is an awesome thing to look for.
Absolutely, man. I actually, one of my things is I'm very anti-weight loss
I saw you post about that.
Yeah. Like that mentality of like, I need to lose weight. It causes people to do different things than they would if it's like, my goal is to just be overall healthy, or my goal is to look better. Like if your goal is to look better, follow XYZ. If your goal is to feel better, follow ABC. But when we just fixate on the scale, it turns into a like, okay, let me just starve myself. Like, no. The scale is just a metric that we use to, you know, get to the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Whenever I have clients struggling with the scale, because like you said, it's a tool, and for some clients it's beneficial, but I'm sure you can relate. I've had those clients where they want to use the scale, but it's self-sabotaging. And so I know if they get a quote unquote bad number, it's going to derail their progress. I usually have this conversation, and it takes people back in a positive way, where I'm like, let's say the number on the scale went up 100 pounds, but you looked exactly the way that was beneficial for you and put you in a healthy place. Would you care what the scale said? And every single time I ask it, they say, no, I wouldn't care about the number if I looked and felt the way I wanted to. And so I say, so then why do you care about the scale? Right. And obviously go into the science of it, you know, the correlation with body weight over time. But at the end of the day, like you say, it is a recomposition issue, not a number metric of gravity pushing on your body issue on this planet.
Exactly. And look, we've actually been conditioned to like isolate weight loss as like the end all be all in fitness. And like when you see somebody that you haven't seen in a while, like if you saw me a year ago and then you see me now, what's the first thing you're gonna ask me? Did you lose weight? Like I may or may not have.
Right.
In this case, I did, but that's just what we associate with health, is like a reduction in weight. And I see it all the time. Like when somebody comes to me with a fitness goal, I ask you, what's your fitness goal? And they be like, I want to lose 20 pounds. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. I love that you have a fitness goal, but what's going to happen when you lose 20 pounds? What does losing 20 pounds actually mean for you? And it's like, well, I'm going to have a slimmer midsection. I'm going to look better. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to have more energy. So it's like, okay, well, let's just focus on that. Why don't we just focus on that? And if you happen to lose 20 pounds along the way, great. But just based on this conversation we're having, this first conversation, I don't even know if you have 20 pounds to lose.
That is so true, Curt. I always tell my young coach, I do an ACE personal training prep course, so helping young coaches to go take their ACE exam and get certified. And when we get to that weight loss section, I always use that example, which I love, is like your client telling you their goal. It might be the first time they ever expressed to someone what they wanted. And so it's going to be awkward. They're going to stumble. And I said, what if you get a client who, body composition aside, you just look at them and they're, 5'6", they're 100 pounds soaking wet. And they're like, I want to lose 30 pounds. Like, what do you say to that client? You just say, oh yeah, sure. You want to lose weight? Let's do it. It's like, no, you have to dive into the why behind that. Right. And then maybe they didn't even mean lose weight. Maybe they meant, oh, I want to, develop my physique. Okay. Yeah. That is a completely different thing than losing 30 pounds when you don't have a pound to lose on your body. You have to dive into the psychology of, why do you think you need to lose weight? Who put this idea in your head? Is this something from societal standards that you feel like a number that's double digits versus triple digits is like valuable to you? So I really like that you dive into that why around like the weight loss, and then shifting the goal a little bit.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, don't get me wrong. Like if you are, let's say 30 years old, 5'6", 350 pounds, weight loss is absolutely in your future.
Of course.
Let's do that. And the thing to keep in mind is like with my protocols, with functional strength training, with a lot of the compound lifts, like if you can't get a full range of motion, you're not going to get the most out of that movement. In fact, you might even injure yourself. And if you're carrying excess body weight, like body fat, we're going to talk about what kind of weight that is, but it's going to hinder your movement. You're not, absolutely. So, if you have a stomach and you're not able to get a full range of motion. So yeah, there's an appropriate time to focus on weight loss. Like, let's just get you to a respectable body weight, and then we can talk about doing these other things. But like you said, when somebody comes to you and they're clear in your mind, you're like, okay, well, you're in decent shape. And they're like, I want to lose 30 pounds. Like where? Yeah. where are you going to lose that from? Because like my whole thing is mass versus gravity. That's what the scale is. At a certain point, it's not just going to be body fat that you're losing. Right. So when you start to do things that are sabotaging your well-being, like under eating severely or doing excessive cardio, just because in your mind, it's like, the more I sweat, the less I eat, the skinnier I'll be. Yeah. And that's true. But skinny has a lot of stuff that comes with it when you force yourself into that body type. So absolutely, we as professionals have to be very careful. Like, you want to help a person get to their goal. You want to make them happy, right? But you also have to educate. We also have to be very deliberate with the things that we say. Yes. I really, the industry is not regulated. You just got to get a certification and then you can do whatever. Yep. Right. And there's people online that will tell you you can lose 30 pounds in 90 days. And it's like, man, that is such a broad net to cast. And it's just I know it's a marketing tool, it's a selling point, but like the person who wants to lose 30 pounds in 90 days and might not have it to lose is setting themselves up for disappointment. Yep. And if they join your program and they don't get that, then it's going to make them look at every one of us differently. Like, you guys are a bunch of swindlers. You're just blowing smoke up. Can I cuss on here?
Yes, absolutely, man. You can say whatever the hell you want.
Just making sure.
Sorry to tell you in the beginning. Yeah, go ahead.
But that's the thing. Like, so that's why I'm so deliberate with the content that I put out, is I want to make sure, like, okay, first of all, like it's what you want is pretty simple. So don't let like all of this extra shit online complicate it. But at the same time, let's define what it is that you want. And nine
Yes.
times out of 10, it's an improvement in their physique.
Yeah.
But coming along with that, I love the shift method, because that's what I say. It's like, we got to make lifestyle shifts. We have to shift your perspective on fitness. You've
Yes.
got to make shifts in your lifestyle, shifts in how you recover, shifts in how you like, it's all just whatever's not working for you right now. We've got to make that shift. And my biggest thing, it starts with your mindset when you approach this. This is not a
Yes.
chore. This is not a phase. Like, you're going to turn this into who you are, and
Absolutely.
it's step by step. That's just the mentality that I bring to it, and I just want to see people improve themselves, and
100%, man.
chasing weight loss
100%.
ain't it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you recognizing that is why I call it the shift method. A shift by definition is a gradual or incremental change over time. In the fitness industry, gradual, incremental, slow, steady is not sexy. And so
Exactly.
it doesn't sell. And so my mission is to find ways that make fitness, wellness, mindfulness engaging, fun, realistic, but done in a scientific and healthy manner. Right. And so the method in which you do that, while working with me, is that's why I call it the shift method. And you're right, man.
Yeah.
Like, these people, I don't blame people's hesitation. As fitness, in my podcast with Teddy a couple weeks ago, a guy who owns a fitness app called Rebuild Fitness, we were talking for a good point of time of like, as fitness professionals, we argue over like such trivial little things. And it's like, how can we expect the public to trust us and be able to like get concrete information when you got quacks online saying like, yeah, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks and that's healthy. And it's like, what is going on? We're failing, man.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we have to remember, what are we in this for? Like, I don't want to look cool for a bunch of other fitness professionals. Like, I
No,
love you guys, but whatever. Like, it's about making change in people.
that's right. The service of
So
others.
exactly. And so I'm not sitting up here trying to look smart. I'm not sitting up here trying to do anything more than to give you the path of least resistance to the thing that you want. And any credible fitness professional will agree, like, that's the goal at the end of the day.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I learned this a long time ago. Like, we really put our attention on the goal, but it's not so important how we get there. Like,
No,
you and I may have a similar approach to fitness, but we also have nuance and little things that you do differently. That doesn't mean yours is any better than mine or mine is any better than yours.
exactly.
And at the end of the day, it then becomes, okay, so the person who wants to achieve that goal, which one is your preference?
Absolutely.
If you prefer how Damien coaches and his approach to you, then I wish you guys nothing but the best. And it's not a knock on you for that. And that's something in the fitness industry I don't get. Have you seen these guys on YouTube that critique each other, and they make these long videos about other fitness coaches and other physique guys and the Liver King, and it's more like commentary than it is helpful. It's entertaining, but
Yeah,
it's
I call it
like
hate
gossip.
porn, basically, is what it is.
Yeah, so
It's
weird.
I try not to I go back and forth on this one, man. It's such a good conversation where like there is a part of me that thinks there needs to be some work. It's how we do it that is, I think, maybe the distinction I make, where like
Yeah.
people say outrageous things and it's like this information, people say words don't matter. Words do matter. Right.
Mhm.
And so it's like this information is actually like harmful to people's health because you got people with PhDs and 20, years of experience saying like the most outrageous, blasphemous thing. And it's like someone needs to say like this is wrong. Now, how you go about that, I think, is what matters, right? You have some people take the aggressive mentality right back at him. It's like, this guy's a fucking idiot. And like, he
Yeah.
doesn't know what he's saying. He just blasts him. And like, that gets attention and maybe it does some good help, but then it creates this combative environment in our industry.
Yeah.
What I like to do is like, I'll get people who make like weird comments. Like I've been doing YouTube shorts now. And so I get a little bit more engagement on that channel. And they're just people who they're just weird sometimes with like their comments. And I'm like, hey, let me know your perspective. Why do you think that? Or why do you think this is dumb or whatever? And then more often than not, either they just don't comment back or they'll say, oh, actually, I understand your perspective. So I try to challenge, but in like a respectful and, professional manner with my fellow professionals or the public. And I try not to demean because I know that just builds walls and people get hostile back at you.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I am of the mindset that like there's a lot of anger in the comment section of anything. Like,
Yeah.
if you see any, especially like the more engaged fitness videos, there'll be like 500 comments and 300 of them are like aggressively attacking the person making them, and they're arguing with other people in the comments. So I always look at it like this: like, what purpose does that serve?
Right.
What purpose does that serve? Like, it, you know, you see somebody doing something with bad form, and you go and you're like, you're a jack off, and it's like, no, you don't have to do that. You can
Yeah.
either give them, you know, a helpful tip or just keep
Yeah.
it moving. Like, my stance with how I deliver with my brand is I'm gonna just make my noise over here.
Yep.
And when it becomes loud enough and when enough people are making noise with me, heads are going to turn.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how long that's going to take. 1,000,000 eyeballs means you got to shake 10 million hands. So I'll just keep on doing it. But I just don't feel a personal need to attack somebody else, especially by name. And
No.
like, I don't like, have you seen that guy on TikTok who he'll see a video of somebody with like shitty gym behavior, and then he'll like do a, what do they call it, a remix or whatever, where he'll start
like
talking
the stitch or whatever they
the
do, like the
stitch,
duet or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
and he'll be, you know, he'll take their video and then he'll give his perspective on how shitty their gym behavior is. I'm like, whoa, that's a bit much. He's very
Yeah.
popular, but it's like, that's a bit much, man. Like, I say to each their own. If I see somebody do something I disagree with, I'm going to then create a piece of content, not so much talking about the thing I disagree with, but putting emphasis on my perspective on that.
Yeah. And then if a
And
conversation comes out of it, then hopefully it can be, reciprocal. And even if y'all disagree, like, that's okay. Like,
yeah,
we can disagree and go about our lives without trying to be at each other's throats.
I agree, man. I seriously think, like, at the end of the day, if we set our trajectory on how can we help people,
Yeah.
and we just keep doing that, like, it's just going to guide our behavior.
That should be the guiding overarching principle. And if ever we like argue with each other, if we come back to that, we can like, have cooler heads prevail in that instance.
And it creates collaboration, man. Like,
yes.
If you see somebody who has a different perspective than you do, and you have a meeting of the minds, it's either going to shift your perspective, shift their perspective, or create a new perspective.
Yeah.
Collectively, and all that does is just help the people who are in need of what we do even more.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. We're starting off good. I like this. This is a good conversation, brother. Appreciate it.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking, I love having a podcast because I just like hearing myself talk. But I get in the zone so much about fitness, because it's a very I get very passionate about this conversation. It's the one thing in life that I don't want to say I figured out, but that I have not stalled in my pursuit of more.
Yeah.
Like, other things, I don't want to do this no more. I'm notorious for that, man. Like, when I first got out of high school and stuff, I was like, I want to be a rapper. And I did that until I didn't anymore, and just like fizzled off. You know, I was wanting to be in radio, wanting to be an actor. Like, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to do.
But now you're kind of in radio now, right?
Yeah.
In a sense.
It all comes full circle at the end of the day, because I went to film school. So, I didn't become an actor, but guess what? I know how to edit video. I know how to be in front of the camera, which is a huge part of my business. Like, creating content, believe it or not, is just as lucrative for me as the actual service that I provide. And so it's just another stream of income. And the fact that I not only enjoy it, but I think I'm pretty damn good at it. You know what I'm saying? Because I put in that work at film school, and then going to broadcasting school, getting in front of the mic, and knowing how to just continue to deliver. One thing I've gotten really good at is I've cut out the ums and uhs and all that. Like, that was a huge thing before, but now I understand, like, it's a crutch, just like anything else. Like, our clients do is, you notice, like, okay, you snack because it's a thing that you lean on when you feel a particular way. Yeah, that's with the ums and ahs. Well, yeah, tangent aside though, like, I'm glad to be in this industry. I'm glad that we're able to talk like this. And, if nothing else, if we have absolutely nothing else in common personally, like, we have helping people as a foundation, as a middle ground, the world is better off.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And I'll definitely be sure. Curt will say it again at the end, but we'll be sure to link his Instagram. You guys should definitely check out his content. It is very high quality. I love the one with the mic where you just kind of like, let's have a talk here real quick. You just kind of go into it something, and like, you got good cadence. It's very entertaining, great topics that you cover. And so
Thank
people,
you.
if y'all are looking for another fitness professional to find some like engaging content with, definitely recommend Curt. But you kind of segued into this perfectly, man. So I listened to your first podcast, got to learn a little bit more about who you are. I know I see you most days during the week because we're both trained pretty early in the morning.
Yeah.
But kind of just want to let the people know like how you got into fitness personally. Like, what is your kind of like fitness origin story? I want to hear a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, man. So I'll try to keep it condensed and not give you the entire motion picture. But man, so fitness is my mom was a fitness instructor
Okay.
in the 80s and in the 90s. And when I say fitness instructor, I mean like the leotard and the leg warmers
Yes,
and
yes.
suit and
Yeah.
but she was very popular. This is in Southern California. She was very good at what
Oh
she
wow.
did.
Okay.
And I remember at a young age, because of the hustle and bustle of living in Los Angeles, like I would have to come to her classes with her. And I would sit like in the back of the class and I'd see her teach. And she had cases full of, watch this, cassette tapes. You know what that is?
Yes.
She had cases of cassette tapes that she would make her mixes to. And I saw the whole thing and I saw how it just brought people together of, men, women, gay, straight, black, white, whatever. Like everyone was coming together because we all want to sweat and feel good. And then,
Yeah.
whatever you feel about me later on us, whatever, but within this 45 minutes, like we're all family and community. And
Hmm.
that just stuck with me, man. And then we left California, moved to Denver. And this is like looking back at it, but I was just like in a rebellion mode. So I decided when we moved to Denver, I was like, I'm gonna be a rapper. Like that's what I want to do. This is the time, No Limit records, Cash Money, and Tupac, and like the mid to late '90s. And I'm just like, I want to do that. I don't want to go to school. I don't do none of it. So I dropped out and pursued a music career. And I was one of them dudes that if I want to learn something, I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna get in there, and it's the same mentality. That's why I feel like I'm such a good coach, is because if I want to learn something, I'm gonna break it down step by step so it makes sense in my head. So that's what I did with music. Um, but I also, it was gangster rap. I did the
Hmm.
music, and then I did the like outside of music stuff,
Okay.
where messing with drugs, doing gangster shit like that, and it eventually caught up to me. So like, fast forward to what would it be, 2007? I got in trouble. Like I was about to go to big boy jail. Like 20 years I was facing for possession with intent to distribute. And I
Holy
managed to
shit.
get yeah. So I managed to get that plea bargain down to a 8 years in a halfway house. So I got sentenced in 2008 January, and I had to do 8 years in there. Well, that was the sentence. But when I was going to court thinking I was facing 20 years, my mentality was like, I'm not gonna be nobody's bitch. I'm about to get in this gym. So I started working out, and it just became a focus of like every day I'm gonna go in here and work out. But what did I know? Bench press and pull-ups and walk on the treadmill. Like that's really all I did. I was nervous and scared about the other stuff. But I seen people bench press. That's what I did. Seen people bicep curl, like the simple shit. But as I was continuing to do it, I loved the way that I was feeling. And so being in the halfway house, no smoking weed, no drinking, none of that stuff. So I had to keep a clear mind. And
Hmm.
the only thing that kept me clear was going to the gym. So as I was doing my sentence, fast forward to like 2011, I met my now wife, and we went to high school together, but we actually connected like 10 years later, almost exactly 10 years later. And as our relationships developing, she's like, you go to the gym all the time. Why don't you make a career out of it? Because at that point, I had gone to broadcasting school, I had gone to film school, and then I was like, what was the last thing I did? I actually went to college. I went
Okay.
to the University of Colorado at Denver with a major in mass communication, which is a pointless degree, but as you can see, my communication skills are pretty good. Because of that, I learned a lot that I could apply in life.
Yeah.
The degree is not so helpful. So in that time, I was just trying to figure out life. Like, what do I want to do? And she's like, well, you're working overnights at hotels right now. Why don't you, make this gym thing a career. So I was like, cool. So this was, 2012. I signed up for the NASM course, and I opened the book, and it was like looking at a Chinese phone book. I had no clue. And mind you, in college, high school, all of that science, I hated it. That was the worst subject for me. And so I got the books and the tests and everything in 2012. Tell me why it took me 2 years to complete that certification, because I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is too much. And then finally I put my head down, and I became a personal trainer. And I've always been an entrepreneur ever since the music stuff. Like, that's how, like, I've had jobs on and off just to make ends meet, put myself through college, but like, I've always been an entrepreneur. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get into fitness. And at that point, I was watching Shaun T, Insanity.
Shaun T, let's go,
Yeah.
baby.
And I was like, yo, like, I want to do that. I want to make programs, because when I was doing Insanity, I was in the best shape, probably just as good a shape as I am right now. And I'm in the best shape of my life now, because I was doing that 6 days a week. I was weight training. I was like, I'm gonna be like Shaun T. So I'm gonna do the Insanity type deal. I'm gonna have an online program. It's gonna be dope and cool. And yeah, that sounds good, but welcome to reality, where like Shaun T didn't just flip a coin and decide he was gonna do that and become successful. He put in work. He had a team behind him. There was a lot of things he had in place that I just didn't. So I ended up working at gyms, because I needed to learn the business. Like, you can learn the anatomy, you can learn movement, you know what I'm saying? You can learn how bodies move, but the business of it, you gotta get your hands dirty. So I ended up taking a job in there, and I've had some really horrible personal training gigs. Like, my very first one was at a gym. I don't even think it exists anymore. And I came in, they didn't have computers. So everything was written by hands. It was like old school, but the guy taught me so much about sales. He taught me so much about how to explain movement to people. And he also taught me humility, because as soon as everybody left the gym, he was like, grab that mop and hit the bathrooms and clean them toilets and clean it. I was like, whoa, I'm a personal trainer. This is not what personal trainers do. He's like, well, here, that's what we do. So I was like, cool, okay. I learned from him, time to move on. So I had a set in my head, I'm gonna work at the most upscale gym in Denver that I can. And I ended up, bouncing from a couple different gyms until I got to the best job I've ever had was at a gym in downtown Denver. And just the community and the people, it was upscale. So I was around people who are willing to spend a lot of money on, like, the memberships themselves were like $200 a month. And then people are coming in and buying personal training. So I learned how to communicate with these type of people. I had a sales process, and I'm talking about a process that started from the moment we made eye contact and I shook your hands to you pulling out your credit card. Not even that, doesn't even where it ends. It's you getting the results and you telling your friends. And it's like this whole process that I just looked at it like, like I said at the beginning, if I put my focus on getting you to where you want to be, if I make my focus helping to bridge the gap between what you're doing and what you're capable of doing, what's that worth to you? And it's worth whatever you're willing to pay.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And to me, I look at it as it's a business. So as I started to get deeper into this, I realized, like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm here for. Like, this comes naturally to me. Just as natural as making music, just as natural as being in front of the camera, just as natural as me talking on the mic. Like, this is natural for me.
Yeah.
But this is what people will pay me for. The podcast and the music, I was doing it for free just because I enjoyed it. This is something that, are you familiar with the Ikigai?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's like
my mentor had me go through that, man, to help me put my life together.
Right. That's what fitness is for me. It's that center point between what I'm good at, what the world needs, what people are willing to pay me for, and what I enjoy doing. It's bam, right there in the middle. So I'm like,
that's so funny, man. That is how I decided to start this business, from
isn't
doing
that crazy?
It is crazy.
Yeah. And
I'll be sure to link that, because I've had my mentor on before where we've talked about that, and I use that for a lot of my young students who come to me. Ikigai, everyone, you need to check this out. It's I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's a blending of a bunch of dimensions where you can help find a career and life purpose from these meshing or unity of different aspects of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And when I when I like, it's almost like the dart to the bullseye. Like, that is what you're here to be doing. And now it's just like, okay, I think a lot of people discover their passion, discover what they're good at, like discover their ikigai, but I don't believe that everybody pursues it. Because I'm a religious man, and I believe that God puts it in you, and you can embrace it or deny it. Like, it's completely up to you. Like, there's some people, and it comes to people differently. Like, sometimes something terrible has to happen in order for you to discover your purpose, because now you know that you're here to prevent that from happening in other people's lives. I'll tell you something. A lot of the people that I grew up with and did music with and did some of, like, they're not here anymore. I'll be 40 this year. I have one of my closest friends passed away about 7 years ago on Father's Day. And he was younger than me. He passed away in his sleep because he let himself go. He developed sleep apnea. He didn't have his thing on, and it broke my heart, man, to see that. I got a friend that's a year older than me. We were in middle school, high school together. He's like having seizures now. And he's like, and it's like, the shit that you were doing at 18, you can't do that anymore.
Damn, man.
And it's like, that was another piece of this puzzle that came together. Was like, yo, like, you're here in South Florida, and you get to see there's this difference between like 70 years old and mobile and 70 years old and bedridden.
Yes.
Same age, but the decisions and
Absolutely.
choices that they made leading up to that is what got you there. Now, if you can nip it in the bud at 25, have your fun at 18, 19, 20.
Of course.
But by your mid to late 20s, get out of your system. You need to be taking care of yourself. And especially if you've brought a life into this world, they don't deserve to have you, reliant on medications and not at your best because of stupid ass choices that you're making right now, or your lack of care for yourself. Like, some people are at that point. It can be about your physique, but it could also just be about your quality of life. And when I start to see that, like, I can make profound change in someone's life.
Yes.
That is, what else would I want to do?
Life altering change, man. On the topic of people in their elder years, man, like, I always say, I live with my grandparents still. Housing market's wonderful in South Florida. And my grandmother is 72. My grandfather's turning 70 next month here in about 2 weeks. And my grandfather rides his bike every morning about, 13, 15 miles. My grandmother walks and does yoga and some light weights, and you would never know. You would never know. And they're in such great shape, and cognitively they're there. And, thankfully good genetics plays a role in that. But I've seen the other side of things where people in their 50s and 60s, and you're like, man, this is rough. Like, it is a little reality check, but you see that you can have a better outcome for later in life,
Yeah. And it's never too late to change.
Never.
It's never too late to change. The more you look into like your quality of life and just really decide, like, I had a client this morning, actually, he said it to me. It's like, it's true, man. Like, if you're not in pain after 40, you're dead. Like, he said that, and I'm like, but you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be, like, I'll be 48, like I said, in September, and I have things that pop and crack that didn't used to, but
not that 40 is old, man. But first off, you look great for starters, man. Like, 40 is not old by any means, but like, I would have never. I thought you were in your early 30s. Like, I thought you were 32, 33 for real.
Look, when I turned 39, I stopped coloring my beard. I used to have when I color my beard, you can color 26, 27. I can get away with it. But again, it's because of the choices that I make. And I'm on the extreme end. I'm not gonna lie. I'm on the extreme end. Like, we don't do sweets in this house. We don't have anything like that. So I was joking with somebody the other day. You say out of sight, out of mind. But for me, it's like out of reach, out of mouth. Because I'll tear up a thing of Oreos. We don't buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch in here because it'll be gone in an afternoon. Point being is that, I take very good care of myself. The only thing I don't do that I need to focus on is sleep well. because you know how our schedules are
Yes, sir.
sometimes. I have a
Got to run
son,
off those 4 hours
3-year-old.
sometimes. I just did it the other day,
Yeah,
man.
it happens. And then we're the same ones that are telling our clients, get some rest,
Yes, we are. That's the one. That's the one I'm a hypocrite on. I'll admit.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. And I was actually saying this on my podcast. Like, I'm a night owl and an early bird. I know I have to be at a gym at the gym at a certain time, but I'll still get up like 2 hours before that, just so I can enjoy the serene of like,
Yeah.
because here's the thing, it's like this in South Florida. I'm sure it's like this everywhere. You can feel energy, right? And like
Yeah.
when I'm up at 5 a.m., it's just peace. 6, it starts to ramp up. By 8 o'clock, when the assholes are out honking their horns and drinking their coffee and smoking a cigarette, and it's chaos. So
It
I like
is.
that peace. And then I'm my most creative at nighttime. So what's the sacrifice? I can either nap in the afternoon or, you know, sacrifice a little bit of sleep. I always make it up on the weekend. So I know you can't do that, but I enjoy a Sunday morning of like, I'm not doing shit today.
We pretend we can do it on the weekend, right?
Yeah, it's not how it works.
Now, I really appreciate you taking the time in to kind of go into your past. First off, thank you for sharing about, I talk about this with coaches a lot when it comes to like, showing, some points in our life. Like, I've talked about in the past, I've had, really bad injuries. I've had really bad illnesses. And I always appreciate coaches who like give, their life story, because it shows like that we all got shit that has gone on or is going on in life, man. And, having to go to rehab and, dealing with some of that stuff, man. I can relate. My family is heavily involved in the rehab community. So, props to you for, seeing things through and then, coming out on the other side. It's always good to see.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
Yes, sir. And, it's really cool too, that mom kind of is like the origin of like how you got into fitness. And then the wife is the one who like made the suggestion. So you had these awesome women in your life who kind of like planted the seed first,
Mm-hmm.
even with like, Shanti, kind of like the male version of your mom, that macho, like, high intensity aerobic style fitness. And then your wife being like, yo, why don't you do this? You seem to like it. So that's really cool. You had people in your life to like support you in that mission that you have.
And you know what's funny? My mom is the one who persuaded me to go out on a date with my wife.
No,
Yeah, because like I said, I went
they've
to
been
high
working
school
together, man. They're like, we gotta
right the whole time.
get.
No, I went to high school with my now wife, and like I said, about 10 years later, she was a dental assistant working on my mom. And
Okay.
my mom was like, this is when my brother had his daughter, my niece. So my mom was showing her pictures of her niece or her grandson or her granddaughter, and a picture of me with her was up. And my wife was like, I know him. I went to high school with him. And then fast forward, my mom is like, you need to meet this woman. She says she knows you. Da, da, da. I'm like, a mom trying to say, she's
Yeah.
like,
It's like, come on, mom.
nah, I ain't gonna do it. And then this is gonna date me a little bit, but I actually found her on MySpace. And
Oh shit,
I
let's go.
reached out on MySpace, and then nothing really happened there. Then I found her on Facebook, and I still have a screenshot of the post where I'm like, let's go to lunch. And that's where everything started. But it was because my mom was like, you need to speak to this woman. And I was at a point where I was just so tired of women at that point. It's just dating so many like bonehead women. And it's just like, I'm just gonna be single and do it. My mom was like, no, like you need a good woman in your life. She's a good woman. And she was 100% right. So shout out to my mom, Myrna, who's doing very well on TikTok. She's got like
No shit.
25,000 followers, and she does a daily
What?
live. Yeah, she does like chakra readings
What's
and
mama's handle? I want to shout her out.
yeah, most definitely. Let me pull it up because
Dude, that's
it's
so cool, man. She started with the cassettes, man, like the modern version at
yeah.
that time, and now she's crushing TikTok. That's so cool, man. That is
Yeah.
so dope.
So her TikTok handle is at Goddess Dr. Me. That's GODDESSDRME.
That's
And
so
yeah,
cool.
like she's getting a lot of love on TikTok. She's doing very well, a lot better than me because yeah, TikTok has been a struggle for me, but I'm still on there. Just I know people are getting value from it. It's just not going viral because I'm not saying silly shit or showing the tit, but that is so yeah, shout out to mom and shout out to my wife Alexis, who's
Shout
a
out.
South Florida realtor, by the way. You had
Okay.
mentioned the housing market. So if you know anybody who is in the market to buy or sell, then yeah, reach out to my wife, Curly Hair Realtor, on TikTok.
I might have to hit her up. Man, that's so
Yeah,
cool, man.
yeah, we
Now,
grinding, man.
yes, sir. Now I gotta know. Are there some tracks running around on social media or on YouTube of
Oh,
Curt from back in the day?
absolutely. If you listen to my podcast, every intro is an old song. I just throw on like
Is
a
that you
snippet
and
of
that's
it.
you in the intro?
Yeah,
No shit. Okay, I was
that's me
wondering.
on
I'm
every
like, it
song. Yeah.
kind of sounds like him. I'm like, nah, I don't think that's
Yeah.
him. No kidding.
Yeah, that's me. So
Okay.
yeah, I've got a gang of music. If you just Google Mr. Double Up, it'll pop up. I have stuff on SoundCloud still. I've never taken it down. In fact, I was thinking of just taking all my favorite tracks of mine and just throwing them on Apple Music as like a greatest hits. I can say greatest hits, even though I never really went on Billboard or nothing. But I enjoyed making music. I actually still do enjoy it. I just it's not a priority now, but
Yeah, yeah.
as a hobby, I would love to get back into that. But yeah, if you Google Mr. Double O, you'll hear all my old shit, man, and a lot of it is early 2000s
Yeah.
nonsense, but like some of it is it's still, and you can hear the progression, because like, what is therapy really but like talking through your issues and kind of recalling things. That's what I did with music, really, was just like talk through all my shit that I was going through my head. I got a song that's called like The Reason Why I'm Crazy, and it's just me like talking to myself, but also, you know talking about psyching yourself back into life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like there's value in that too. You know what I mean? So yeah, check it out when you get a chance.
Hell yeah, man. No, I've been getting back into 90s rap and really listening a lot of Tupac lately. And so I'm definitely
Yeah,
going to check that out over my next couple workouts. So
let's
that's going to
go.
be awesome, man.
Let's go.
Sweet. Well,
Yes, sir.
thanks, man. Appreciate you going in all that, dude. We got some good stuff here. The one other thing I want to kind of ask on your background, this is something I always like to ask coaches because I always like to hear their perspectives.
Yeah.
Is do you kind of have like a overarching like fitness or health philosophy that helps guide you? I know you talked about the service of other people, but if I ask like Curt, like what is like your overall mantra for what you do? Like what would you say that is?
Yes. So I always keep it very simple. So VXG Performance, we specialize in fat loss and body recomposition through functional strength training and customized nutrition plans. So basically, my philosophy in a nutshell is that I want to make sure that you get in the best shape of your life for life. And I want to put emphasis on that for life because it's longevity, but it's also in application in things that you do for life. Like, that's why I say functional strength training. I want it to have some sort of practical use in your life. That's why I always focus on the compound movements,
Mm-hmm.
because they translate into regular things in life, like sitting and standing, walking
Yep.
upstairs. It's multiple joints, multiple muscles working in synergy. Um, I always joke, like, when do you practically do a bicep curl? Like, when does that show up in your life? Only when you want to accentuate your bicep. We add that because it's part of the program, but
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that functional strength training is the pathway to fat loss. It's the fat pathway to just optimal body movement, and it's the pathway to longevity in life in just general. You're building a lean body. Your body's not meant to just store a bunch of body fat.
Yeah.
I saw this video of this guy on TikTok, 70 something years old, like probably 77, and he's bending over and he's squatting and he's doing pull-ups and all of this stuff. That's part of it. Functional, moving through a complete range of motion. So my thing is, like, from a training perspective, I have the 4 abilities that you focus on. It's always like, we start here. Before you get under a barbell, you need to have flexibility, you need to have stability, you need to have mobility, and then we focus on agility.
Mm.
So when we master these as a foundation, anything is possible. So then we enter a protocol for strength training. You're able to move through a proper range of motion. You have proper muscle engagement, mind muscle connection. And that progressive strength training is what gives you the lean physique, the reduction in body fat, the better heart. You know what I mean? Like, all of that. So that's what we do from a training perspective. From a nutrition perspective, keep it simple. We don't do restriction, but we do structure. So
Mm.
I always tell
I
people,
like
like,
that. I like
yeah,
that framework.
your nutrition is based on where you are now and where you want to be. And we can be as meticulous as you want to be, but I'll never tell you exactly what to eat. I'm not a competition physique coach. Like those guys, they do the regimen and you're going to get on stage and XYZ. No, I want you to be able to do this now and tomorrow and 6 months from now and next year. And I don't want it to be a burden. I don't want you to be like, oh, I'm bored with my diet. No, diet's not a verb. Like it's not something you do. Diet is a noun. It's just the quality of what's in front of you on your plate. So I want people to have the philosophy that like, look, this is how many calories that you're allotted for the day based on your goal. I'm not telling you you have to, this is your goal. Okay. This is your macronutrients. Your main focus is protein.
Yep.
Carbs and fats, however you want. It's just as long as you don't go over calories.
Exactly.
With that those basic parameters, you have free range to eat almost whatever you want. And I tell people like this, like, look, when we eliminate something from your diet, it's because your body doesn't like it. If it fits in your macros, but it leaves you bloated or you're feeling like uncomfortable from eating that, that's why we're not going to eat that. Not because it's going to make you fat. Like ice cream's not going to make you fat.
No.
Too much ice cream, not enough movement, not enough rest of it. That's what makes you fat. Too much stress. That's what makes you fat.
Yes.
You know,
Dude.
so those are the things that we focus on with nutrition. And then we bring it all the way home with lifestyle. So lifestyle are the factors that take place outside of the gym, excluding, but also including your nutrition, your habits. So we're talking about your rest and recovery. We're talking about your levels of stress, the relationships in your life, your rest and recovery, your mental health. Like these are parts of your lifestyle. So I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that. I'm not here to fix you. But again, we're making a shift in your perspective. Have a little gratitude. Appreciate your body. Appreciate your life. Look at the things around you. Those people don't realize like things like excessive anger has a correlation to retention of body fat. Is a correlation to hypertension. So why don't you chill out a little bit? You know, like what can we do to do that? You know, and then we go back to diet. Okay, if you're high strung and a glass of wine brings you peace, then have a glass of wine. Who cares if the scale's not going to move because of that glass of wine? You're not putting your fist through a wall.
Yeah.
You're not shouting at the top of your lungs. So it's balanced. It's customized to the individual. And at the end of the day, it produces a result that not only brings them joy, but that they're able to sustain long term. And that affects every area of their life.
That's dope, man. I love that of like a holistic structure. And I like that it almost, have you ever heard of like the 8 dimensions of wellness?
I believe so.
It kind of, your approach kind of sounds like that, where it takes into account the physical, the mental, the psychological, like all these different aspects of like what makes well-being for a well person. You kind of touch on, it's not for you, it's not just the physical and nutrition. Like you said, they're correlated to each other. So how does your stress level impact your eating, which then impacts your mood, which then impacts your ability to want to go to the gym tomorrow? Like all those things line up together, and you don't just keep it superficial of like bicep curls and planks, brother, and like we're going to carry on. You're like, no, we got to figure out the combination, the structure, not the restriction, of how we can make the best life for you and your goals. And I think that is like, if coaches could get that down, which a good coach over a long period of time will figure that out, but a lot of people don't get to that spot, man. And it's just exercise or nothing. And obviously exercise is like, it's what we do. I have a little saying I say with my friend Elias, like exercise is like the vehicle, you know, or it's the tortilla chip for the salsa. Like it's a way to get to where you want to go, but really you want the salsa. Like, that's why you're dipping in, man. And so fitness, your nutrition plan, these strategies for your mental well-being, those are all vehicles that help you get to that life that you ultimately want. And you got to address those different ones. And obviously, like you said, it's like, we're not psychologists, we're not registered dietitians, but we're given little pieces of little tips that people can use to hopefully benefit them.
Yeah, that's why I love the term coach. Like that's at the end of the day, we're coaches.
We're coaches.
Like I'm not going to move your hands for you. I'm not going to do anything but motivate to bring out the best in you. And when you realize what you're capable of, when you realize that, yes, I can get the body of my dreams. Yes, I can feel better emotionally and physically. I've done my job. Like that's how I know that when you grasp that. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like we're just shifting habits.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And once you get
absolutely.
that, that it just, you become a new human being. And I
Absolutely.
gotta tell you, like, it hits me in the heart every time I get a message from somebody that's like, this is you. And sometimes I didn't even know that I made that change. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like a conversation that I had with somebody where I'm just talking like I'm talking now, and they're like, you don't realize that that conversation sparked a change in my life that made me want to take better care of myself, or made me want to, do something different. So like that's a huge part of what I do, and I'm thankful that I'm able to make that kind of impact in people's lives.
Yeah, those moments make it worth it. And like on the dietary front, like you said, I really like your freedom and like realisticness, right? Like you said, like, bodybuilding and like sports specific aside, like your diet needs to be sustainable. And so I have a very similar approach with the dietary side with staying in my scope is like, we roughly know that this is probably the range of calories for you to achieve your goal that you want. Protein is priority because it helps with resistance training, building muscle mass, keeping you healthy, also helps with satiety. And then the carbs and fat, whichever you like. If you
Yeah,
got foods that are higher in fat and you like that and you don't really care too much about high carbohydrate, do that. If you're
yeah.
someone like me personally, I actually prefer high carbohydrate, low fat. My diet has a lot of the carbohydrate in it. And so I feel best when I do that. Also good. And you can have things like Oreos, you can have things like wine, you can have these things as long as you do it in a respectful, holistic, restructured manner that isn't overwhelming to where it's compromising on your goals.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's the idea. Somebody said this to me the other day. I made a post about a client, and because I had a client that just got back from like 16 days in Europe, and she came back and she didn't gain any weight, didn't fall off her thing, and she was like, you're in really good integrity that your clients can have success without you. And
Yes.
that's honestly, like, I would love for my clients to work with me forever. I know that's not realistic. In fact, it actually makes more sense for me to continue to educate you as we're going through this process so that you can do this on your own. And
Yes.
once it becomes like commonplace in your life, like, you're not thinking about it. Like, I made this analogy like the other day. Do you know how complicated it is in mechanical process to drive a car? Like, you're literally in a piece of metal driving down a concrete slab at
Yep.
high speeds. That is a frightening like concept when you think about it, but
Yes.
we've done it so much that it becomes second nature. You don't even think, like, driving a car, for anybody who drives a car, what do you think about? Nothing. You know when it
Sometimes
wants.
you don't realize how you got home. You ever have one of those?
Exactly.
You're like, did I
Yeah.
drive? Did I run a light? Like, how am I already in my driveway?
I'm telling you. And but here's the crazy thing is, like, if you don't want to die driving a car, how do you do that? You just follow some simple rules. When
Yeah.
that thing turns red, stop. Don't drink while you drive. Don't run over people. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very simple. A complicated process made simple. You
Yes.
do it every day.
Yep.
If you can drive a car, you can follow a fitness program.
Yeah.
It's not that challenging. It might be a disruption in your day to day at first, but the longer you do it, the more it becomes second nature. And as it starts to become embedded into your DNA of like, and you program yourself, I am a healthy person. I
100%.
make choices that benefit the best version of me. When that's who you are, all like, it doesn't even matter like how many calories you're bringing in. You know what it feels like to eat. You
Yeah.
know what your body feels like when it's full. When you're on vacation, you're like, I don't need to overeat because I don't do that anyway. It feels nasty when I do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you want to overeat, go for it because you know,
Yeah.
like, the world's not going to end if I do. And
No.
you know, I get back on track. And that's the same thing. It's like, it's not super complicated. The concepts are simple. The hard part is sticking to it just
Yeah.
consistently, because of just life. Like, we're human beings. We're fallible. Like, I'm not perfect.
No. No one is,
I,
man.
yeah, like, I have my habits. I have my moments. I just happen to be in a space now where the gap between my last goof up and today is further, but we all have it. Listen, when I go to New Orleans, different person. Out If you can day drink out
Them
there, they don't let.
beignets and everything,
Yeah,
man. The King's Gate, all
man.
that stuff, man.
I had a Boy, I had a whole bag of beignets, man. I don't eat stuff like that, man. But like, we're human beings. That's just how it rolls, man. So, that's how the approach I take with my coaching. I want people to understand. Like, I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm not the rah rah guy like that. You all that energy, like that comes and goes.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody who portrays like intensity and like this, y'all are weak, I'm not, like, they all have their weak moments, probably more often than like your average person.
I agree.
So I
I
just
agree.
keep it real, man. I'm just like, look, at the end of the day, it's structure, it's habits, it's your relationship with yourself, it's your relationship with commitment.
Hmm.
Because if you can commit to a fitness program and honor that, you can commit to a marriage and honor that, because you understand, like, okay, these are the things that it takes for a healthy lifestyle. These are the things that it takes for a healthy marriage. If I
Yeah.
don't do this or I do something to the contrary, there's going to be a reaction. There's going to be a consequence.
Yeah.
So just, stay within your envelope and you're fine.
There's a quote that goes something along the lines of, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so,
Yes,
there's, I think, some like nuance there where it's not always true, but, you know, if you're a, pathological liar, that probably, I would imagine, bleeds into other areas of your life.
absolutely.
But if you're a person
Absolutely.
like your post, you're talking about with the integrity and the commitment, and you've fortified yourself with, resilience and discipline and flexibility in your workout, that will carry on into other areas of your
It
life for
absolutely
sure.
will. Yeah, because it's just a habit at the end of the
That's all.
day.
It's a habit. That's right. It's a
Yeah.
psychological pathway that you're building for yourself.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, that's what's so beautiful about the human body. I'm noticing this especially with my son, is that we as humans crave patterns and
Hmm.
predictability.
Yes, we do.
When things are off, we react. But that's where habits come from. That's where everything comes from. It's just repetition over and over. Why do we know how to talk? Because at one point we didn't. And then
Yep.
we started talking, then we got better at it, and then we continue to do it. And now it's just what we do. It's how we
Like
communicate.
driving a
Walking,
car.
like driving a car, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally agree. Like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. I used to say that in my 21-day challenges, because I would have people that would slack off on, some element of the program. And of course, people don't like being challenged this way, but I'm always like, okay, well, where's this showing up in other areas of your life? You know, like, what other commitments are you not sticking
Yeah.
to? And a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it's like, wait, hold on. If I take an objective look at my behavior, yeah, I am slipping in other areas. How can I clean that up? Well, let's start here.
Yeah.
Let's clean this up and get familiar with what it feels like to do what you say you're going to do. And now you make that a mandatory staple in your life, that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And
Yeah.
that affects a lot of behavior, because not only does it keep you locked in on your commitments, but it also creates boundaries, because
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do that if I know I either can't or I'm not willing to. So now, if I give you a fitness program to follow and you're like, I'm not, I've had people do this, like, they're like, I'm not going to follow that. I'm like, thank you for letting me know that.
Yes.
I appreciate that, because
Yes.
now I understand that you're not at this point. We either need to do some alternative work, or we don't need to work at all. That could totally
Yeah.
be a possibility. And the thing is, like, when you're honest with that, you can either change it, and what you're not willing to change, you accept.
Yeah.
So, I say it is like, there's assholes in the world everywhere you go, and a large majority of them are willingly acting this way, because
Mhm.
it's just like, I already know. And,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like, when something's brought to your attention, you know, at first it's ignorance, but once you're aware of it,
Yes.
now it's intentional,
Yes. That
you
was a
know?
very good point, man. And I
Yeah.
really also like what you were saying about, like, your client's perspective on, no longer needing you. I tell that to all my up and coming trainers. I learned it from, I believe, Alan Thrall. He does Untamed Strength. He's like a strong man on YouTube, really big guy, great videos. I'll be sure to link him. He did a video of like how, people would say, like, if you're a sleazy, fitness professional, you'll say it's the worst business model ever. But in my opinion, like you said, it's the best business model ever, which is, I hope one day my clients no longer need me. And
Yeah.
that's not to say, I have some clients that are in great shape. They work it on their own. they just like to come in for an hour and not think and have a coach
Yeah.
push them in a different way. I'll have those clients for a long time. That's totally fine. But I tell my young coaches, like, yo, if you got a client, like your example with going to Europe, if you got a client, you've been working with them for like a couple of years, and like you go on vacation for a week or two and they don't know what to do, that is a problem.
Yeah.
That means you haven't served your purpose as a coach, as an educator, and given your clients the tools to be successful and autonomous. Because at the end of the day, you know, things can happen, hardships can happen, and people are going to move on. Like, you need to set your person up for success to hopefully be on their own. And guess what? If you make them successful and on their own, they're going to tell people, and it frees up time for you to then work with more people. And so your reach gets bigger and bigger rather than staying isolated and gatekeeping information from your client.
Yeah. And to your point, I do have clients that are like, look, I'm not going to do this on my own.
Yeah.
Like, I know what to do.
They just want some accountability or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why we exist. Because there will come a point when I can't teach you anything else. Like, I see you've got it, but you love the camaraderie. It's just become a staple in your life. I got clients I've seen for years that are like that.
Become some of your closest friends in a sense, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. We know about each other's personal lives and things like that. And it's just a beautiful thing. I know this is one of these industries, like I had mentioned before, where people from all walks of life bond over this concept of bettering ourselves. And when that's a common ground, man, like nothing else matters, man. You thinking of all these people in Congress arguing over shit, and you're like, go work out together for an hour. Y'all figure it out.
It's funny you say that, bro. One thing I do with a lot, I know I keep saying this, but like one thing I do with my student staff is within usually the first semester that I'm working, one thing I always do is I do a workout with them.
Yeah.
Just individual. And they get all like nervous, like, oh my God, my boss is going to work out with me. And like, do I need to ride to work? I'm like, no. This isn't like, I'm not evaluating you. I'm not like, you know, checking out your form and like, you know, I'm not trying to be judgmental. We're just going to work out and sweat and bond. And like conversations, like walls come down, you know, you learn about each other. And in just like 1 hour, I learn so much from them. And like it builds or at least expands upon a relationship that was otherwise, you know, not developed yet. And like if people worked out together, like you say, Congress, if they all just did like a 4-week challenge, man, and like sweat together, I feel like that would be a great initiative, dude.
Yeah. Everybody would just be so much calmer around each other.
Yes.
Because you see them at their weakest.
Yes.
You know, when somebody's seen you at your weakest, like there's nothing else there's nothing they can take away from you. And then you can just build from that, man. Yeah. I would love that, man. That's so dope. It's a bonding thing. Like you said, I love that energy of just like, I would rather do that than go out for drinks, you know?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong going out for drinks, and I'll enjoy that, but like, yo, let's go sweat together. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
Let me see what your bench press look like. Let's see if we can add a little bit to it. Let's see
if
you can push me past. You see me stuck at that damn 315.
You won't get it, Curt. Man. Don't you worry.
I keep. You know what? I took a step back on that because I had to ask myself, like, why am I so obsessed with 315 on the bench? There's no point to this. Like, I'm the only one that cares about it. And at a certain point, it was like, all right, let me just keep building. And
it just looks nice, you know?
Yeah, it does.
It just looks nice.
It is. There's plates on there, man. And what really pisses me off is that 10 years ago, I was repping 315. I was able to just ho. And then just now, I just don't have it. Like I can do like 305 and hit that for one, but it's something about the 315. Like I psych myself out sometimes. Like shit, man. I know I can do this. It's just be irritated, man. But yeah,
they're gonna come up. They're gonna come up. Don't you worry.
Get it.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right, man. Well, I appreciate you going into the philosophy, man. I always like to hear, you know, coaches' perspectives, and you know, there's always some universal themes, but hearing kind of like the nuances, how you break it down is dope. The last thing I kind of want to get into, man, is, you know, I know you got your podcast, like we mentioned a couple of times, and so just kind of wanted to, you know, hear about like, you know, what was the inspiration behind it, the name a little bit, like why you call it that. So just learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So my podcast is called VisionXGrind, VXG. And that's the name of my company is VisionXGrind. And my fitness portion of it is VXG Performance and Nutrition. So it's just staying on brand. But it's funny, nobody actually asked me that question, how the podcast came about. So here's a stupid thing. My younger brother has been a podcaster for, I want to say 18 years now.
No shit.
Like most of his adult life, he's had a podcast. He does it specifically about professional wrestling. He's at this point now, he's like really close with Tony Khan, the owner of All Elite Wrestling, and he's like goes to all the shows. It's really cool shit. But he's had a podcast forever, and I've always wanted to do a podcast. And like every year, I would ask him, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And he's like, "Yeah," and then nothing. So I was under this impression that like it's this complicated process. And my brother's been doing it. He's the expert. He don't want to help me. I don't know where to go now to do this. And like, I made the New Year's resolution coming into 2023 that I'm going to do a fucking podcast. I'm going to stop making excuses and I'm going to just do it. And the first episode is probably going to suck, but I'm just going to do it. And so I did it, and I've done it every week since. And it was this thing of like, when I figured out how to create a podcast and put it out there, I was like, is this easy? You mean I've been overcomplicating
I had the exact same
this?
thought, bro. I was like, this is so insane. I'm like, wait, I can get on Spotify?
Yeah.
What the hell?
That, like literally I set up the account and had the podcast up in a day. Yeah. It's like, no kidding. Because I had at the end of 2022, I already had like 10 episodes in the can. I just was recording them, and I'm like, I'm going to put it out January 1st. Like literally that Sunday morning it came out. And when I figured out how simple it was, first of all, I'm like to my brother, like, you motherfucker, like you could have told me this. Like you could have spent 20 minutes showing me how to do this and I would have had it, but it's not his responsibility, right? It's my thing that I wanted to do. So I finally just did it, and it's one of those things that I wanted to commit to now. Content-wise, I did not want to be just a fitness podcast, but I also didn't want to be like just me ranting and raving. So I wanted to find, okay, so what is this podcast about? So VXG, as far as I know, is the only podcast that merges fitness, mindset, lifestyle, and culture. So I touch on all of those in various episodes. So from fitness, that's the stuff where I'm just nerding out. Like the conversation that we've had today is what you hear on my fitness episodes of podcast. Mindset, so it's very direct, where I'm talking about my life philosophies, the styles that I like to just the mindset that I have in life, and my principles and my non-negotiables. Lifestyle, ways to live, ways to improve your quality of life. So we talk about like relationship stuff. I had my wife on there. She was talking about
that's dope,
that.
man.
Yeah, family. I had made an episode specifically about just being a father. You know what I mean? Like this type of stuff. And then culture. So I'm tapping into my culture, things about being a Black man, things about hip hop, because that's part of my culture. And then some of the more serious topics that I don't get to discuss, because there's a lot of things culturally that I've experienced where I look at, like, here's an example. I live in South Florida. And we have a population of Black people, but coming from California to Denver to here, I've never been around Haitians and Jamaicans, and it's a different culture, and it made me feel different. And now I'm like, it's an experience. There's nothing wrong with having those experiences. People just don't like to talk about it. But I'll talk about it. I'll talk about racism because it's a thing that exists. I've experienced it, and I have an episode called "Is It Racist?" where it was talking about, I don't know if you follow Grant Cardone, but he had made a statement about how he talks, his demographic is Black men, so he talks street to them, and if people were like, yo, like, and he's a millionaire, and people were like, yo, you don't say that, that's racist. And I'm like breaking that down, and like, why is it that way? It's his truth, is whatever he said, so all of these topics, and that's how I wanted to just lay it out, of like, it's a pretty broad spectrum of topics, but it's topics that are relevant to each and every area of your life. You can get some value from it. You don't have to take notes every episode. Like some episodes you can just sit back. Some episodes you can listen and be like, I don't agree with you. Yeah, great.
Let's
awesome. Have that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to, because as I roll into season 2, I'm going to do more like this and have people on to interview. I just have this top 5 lists of people that I want to interview on here. And they're like celebrities and things like that. So I want to build some traction with this podcast so I can get those guests on here and just really make it a place where, it's called Vision and Grind. It's a two like two-sided sword there, because Vision and Grind, my first business that I made was called All Grind Entertainment. It was a record label. My last business was called Double Vision, and that was a branding and marketing agency. And they both collapsed, and they both I did terrible at, did not succeed the way I wanted to. So I just took those two concepts together and called it Vision and Grind. That's the name of my current company.
I see.
But Vision and Grind are also the two things you need for success in any endeavor. Let's take fitness, for instance. You need vision. You need it's your goal.
Yeah.
It's imagining things as they should be, not as they are, as you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then grind is the work ethic that goes into it. So that's how I relate everything. It's like, what's the goal, and then what's the work that needs to happen to go into it. So that's what I wanted to put in that podcast. And then I wanted to bring people on so that they can tell their stories of how they took ideas and the work and the grittiness that it took to get from idea to fruition, to like coming together, coming alive.
I love that, man. I love that. A big thing I always talk about, I have it on one of my shirts. It says, do it for the culture, and that the goal of the podcast. And then what I do with the Shift Method is to shift the culture of health and fitness for the world, ideally. And it's what I'm going to do, not planning to do, what I'm going to do. And so hear about you talking about, lifestyle, culture, fitness, all those things, man. You're doing it, bro. And so hearing it and having those similarities is really refreshing to see in our industry. And so props to you, man, for doing the thing.
Thank you kindly.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Well, Curt, I appreciate your time, man. Saturday, I'm sure you got some dad responsibilities you got to do. So always appreciate your time. Just let the people know anywhere that they can find you, any services, any links you want to plug. Now's the time.
Yes, sir. So you can find me on your favorite social media platform. I'm on all of them at Mr. Double Up. That's at MRDUBBLUP. That's where you can find my personal content. If you're interested in learning more about my training philosophies, my nutrition philosophies, if you want to have a conversation, see if I can help you, you can go to VXGperformance.com. You can also check out the podcast, VXGperformance.com/podcast. All the information is there. But yeah, reach out, connect. Like I said, I'm on all the socials. I'm active on all of them, which not the best thing in the world, but I was saying that's how we're connected in the world like that. So yeah, VXG Performance is the company. Mr. Double Up is the brand, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys. Oh, yes, sir. And kicking off tomorrow, actually, I have a free, 100% free 21-day challenge. Anybody can join. It's a 21-day fat loss kickstart challenge. All you have to do is go to go.vxgperformance.com. It's 100% free. Kicks off on Sunday. So anybody listening, you can hop in. We'd love to have you.
Boom. I'll make sure to put that challenge down in the links below as well. Y'all know where to find me. Website, theshiftmethod.org. You click any of those take action buttons. I'll get back to you in 2 days at the latest. Talk about your fitness goals, maybe work in person or virtual. We got those morning sessions open. Again, a couple spots for any in-person people local to South Florida. We got online training. And of course, if you're trying to train on a budget, we got those custom training templates through Train Heroic. Again, you can also get some merch on the store. Again, shirts, shorts, you name it. I got it. That's the Shift Method store on my website. And of course, like Curt said, y'all can find me anywhere, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, for the handles at _shift_method. We got the podcast every other Monday and a YouTube video on the other Mondays that we miss. So we got something coming out every Monday. Y'all know where to find me. Again, theshiftmethod.org, handles at _shift_method. Curt, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. You have a wonderful day. All right.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good one.
Later, everyone.